Welcome to KQEG and Seven Rivers Sports. I'm your host, Terry Erickson. Each week, an inside look into sports, into wellness, into fitness, introduce you to some celebrities throughout the greater La Crosse area. This week, back for a fifth time, a record time, former Central star in multiple sports, part-time CEO of, I'll explain that in a minute, of Jay Buckley Tours, and really a full-time volunteer in youth sports in the area. Matt Thornton, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to come back here in an introduction like that. I should probably just leave. I don't know if I can live up to that thing, but
I said a part-time CEO, and that was just a little sarcastic. Of course, we're going to talk about Jay Buckley Tours and your involvement. But I know a lot of our listeners are interested in youth sports, and there's been a lot of things written, some positive, some not so positive. But a lot of people ask me to get involved in youth sports, sending my son, my daughter, what should I look for? So I'll ask you, as a coach and going through the Boys and Girls Club and being very knowledgeable, what are some of the components that parents should look for when they select a program for their son or daughter?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think, you know, the biggest part of the program is the coaches themselves. You know, the coaches are going to have the most amount of contact with your kids. And then I think you go back to the organization and the training that they do. You know, one of the great things, I coach football for the Boys and Girls Club, and every year they have a great training program at the beginning of the year, not just so much on the X's and O's. That's probably the minority of it. It's more on the kids' safety as we move forward and what to do if there is a potential type of injury. What is the protocol? Who's there to help you out? And all three organizations that I worked with the La Crosse Central Basketball Association and Shelby Baseball, the big focus is on the coaches and the proper training that they have. One thing we do with Shelby Baseball is we partner with the Trusted Coaches Association. So it's an online course that you go through and you learn about interaction with kids safety. A lot of that is focused on that part, not so much the X's and O's. Boys and Girls Club has another great, through the NFL online training program as well.
The Heads Up program.
Yep,
for concussions.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you look into is the coaches are going to have the most contact with your kids in these sports, and then you can maybe ask or look into what type of proper training they have. And that's something that is an ongoing. You've coached for many, many years, and I've coached for a little less than that. And but you can always expand your training on whether it be injuries or how to handle certain situation with kids. We have a lot of knowledge of the actual game, but you can expand your knowledge on those parts of it.
How about this? Again, we're talking with Matt Thornton, Youth Sports, and we're going to talk about Jay Buckley Tours. But a lot of them, the question is, authors, sports psychologists, the number of games, overexposure, too much, not giving kids enough time to just be kids, and playing in tournaments and traveling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it depends on the intensity of the kids and the parents. There is definitely too much, but some kids like that, and there's others that don't need it so much. I'm a big fan of practice at the young youth age, and even the older youth age. I think fundamentals. We don't get enough practice, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, wrestling. I'm a big fan of practice, in that you constantly work on those fundamentals, because that's your foundation as you're going forward in any sport.
I think that's a criticism of AAU, and AAU has its pluses, but AAU, it's more focusing on individual skills and so on, individual spotlight of kids, and you know, there's not a lot of drill work or a lot of team cohesion kind of things. So I absolutely agree with you, and I used to love practices more than anything else in my 40 years of coaching. One other quick thing, pressure, stress, intensity, sportsmanship, parent involvement. And one parent came up to me recently and talked about the concern that she had for her daughter being on an 8 and 9-year-old softball team having tryouts and having an elite team at that age level, which I struggle with a little bit. But how do you feel about all those things?
Yeah, it's kind of like today's society has pushed us to there, and it makes it tough for an organization to be something for everyone. You know, back in the day, we pretty much just had neighborhood teams, and we played against each other in the city and then other teams around the area. But the society has changed where the opportunities to travel and go to these big tournaments around the state and around other parts of Minnesota, Illinois, has made it almost like a cult following that we have to do that in order for our kids to be successful. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. So there's both schools saying, hey, let's let them be kids for a little bit and let them develop their fundamentals, or hey, I got to get them rocking and rolling right now at 8 and 9 because, you know, those kids in California, Florida, southern states are playing year-round, and we only get so much time to be outdoors for especially baseball and softball.
Exactly. One other quick thing, we're going to move to Jay Buckley Tours with Matt Thornton, by the way, 3-sport star at Central. I read an article just recently, an author, a friend of mine, actually, a baseball coach in northern Wisconsin, talked about the demise of multi-sport athletes. And you were a 3-sport athlete, as I just mentioned, but fall is supposed to be football. No, fall is baseball leagues and so on. So some athletes don't play because of interference. Winter, there's interference, especially with girls playing basketball, but then they have volleyball leagues. Spring, it's AAU. They don't go out for track or baseball because they have AAU basketball. There's a problem with that, isn't there, Matt Thornton?
I'm fully in agreement with you. I am a big fan of multi-sport athletes. I think you get the ability to you get to do something different. You know, I think back many, many years when I participated, if I had to play only one sport, I would get bored of that sport. You know, if my father said, you're just going to play baseball 12 months of the year, I would get bored of it. I enjoyed, everybody would ask me, what was your favorite sport? Well, when I was playing football, football is my favorite sport. When I was playing basketball, basketball is my favorite sport. Baseball is my favorite sport. There's so many things that you can learn from it. And then from an injury standpoint, there's been research done. Dr. Andrews done it. Is that a kid, when his body is growing and he constantly does the same thing, it degenerates their body. You imagine just swimming when you're from 15 to 18? And the study basically says the body breaks down in the early 20s. It doesn't happen right away. So if all I do is run up and down a basketball court, jump up and down, my knees and my ankles are going to deteriorate over time. Throwing a baseball 12 months of the year, you remember Kevin Henthorn. He's down in Arizona, and his friends are scouts for baseball. The baseball scouts are starting to come to the Midwest now to look for live arms because they don't pitch 12 months out of the year.
There you go.
They know their arms are going to be live. I think it's great. They're going to see pitchers. They're also going to see some of our hitters. We play great ball in the Midwest. We just don't do it year-round.
Exactly.
And that's why we encourage football is another sport that you can learn so much about, the teamwork behind football. You got 11 guys. If you got the best quarterback in the state, but if you don't have the rest of the guys blocking for him, he's never going to be able to throw the ball.
I'm with you, and I know a lot of our viewers feel exactly the same way, and so thank you for sharing that from an expert and somebody that was involved. Hey, Facebook keeps track of you, Matt Thornton, which is great because you just returned. Now we should move to some Jay Buckley Tours before we go to break, but you just returned from an iconic celebration of Derek Jeter's retirements, and he retired his numbers in New York City, so he joins Billy Martin and all the guys I used to watch, and Babe Ruth a little bit before me, but what an experience that was.
Incredible experience. I've never been a Yankee fan. I mean, growing up back in the days with the Brewers, Gorman Thomas, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, and then they take on those big mighty Yankees, George Steinbrenner bought teams. So the dreaded Yankees, never been a Yankee fan. And I never was a huge Derek Jeter fan until all this stuff happened in baseball, and we all know what that's about. And over the years now, I've really come to admire him. And my nephews are huge Yankee fans and huge Derek Jeter fans, so I said, hey, why don't we do this? And it was a great experience. And I tell you what, you talk about a class act. I mean, he is something that I say it as of now, hopefully nothing happens in the future, but kids should look to him. The first thing he did when he grabbed that mic in front of 65,000 people, he wished all the mothers Mother's Day. It wasn't about him. He had his grandmother, he had his mother, he had his sister, he had his wife who was pregnant, and just wished everybody in the stadium on Mother's Day, and just started his speech that way. So just a class act.
Well, class act is right. 20 years playing for the Yankees, 5. Put up with George Steinbrenner for a lot of those years.
20 years, he never was on a losing team. 20 consecutive years the Yankees had a winning season.
Oh, and 5 times world champions.
Yes.
Gold Glove, leads the Yankees in hitting, and a class act indeed, and married to a beautiful model.
Yep.
And he certainly is one of my favorites too. Derek Jeter. Think we can get him on the show sometime?
Well, we can try. I'll tell you what, I'll be right next to him because
I suppose
he is just unbelievable. I mean, his success on the field, but what he does off the field, as he thanked everybody there, he thanked the Astros almost for like, hey, sorry for interrupting your game, was almost the way he thanked all of them as well.
And Turn 2 Foundation, where he helps kids with alcohol and drug problems, a big part of who Derek Jeter is. But we're not just talking about Derek Jeter, we're talking about Matt Thornton, who just came back from there. We're going to talk more, we're going to get more into Jay Buckley Tours right after this.
After 80 years in our beautiful area, it's easy to find a home that's kept comfortable by Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning. To say thank you, we're celebrating our 80th anniversary in style.
When you install a new Carrier residential air conditioner now until June 27th from our La Crosse or Winona locations, get 50% of your purchase back if there's a new record high temp on July 4th. Call now for complete details.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. Our guest today, Matt Thornton, Youth Sports, Jay Buckley Tours, all those kinds of things. Hey, and 7 years you've been the CEO now. You came back, you graduated from Oklahoma, you got to know Billy Tubbs, who I watched coach, and you had some sales jobs, and your people skills, your communication skills that was your major in college that you learned certainly was a tremendous prerequisite for getting involved in Jay Buckley Tours. 7th year. How's it going so far?
Going great. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. It's going great. Yeah, you know, the different experiences that I've had going to school so far away, but also you mentioned Billy Tubbs. I worked with the Oklahoma basketball team for 4 years, and that was an unbelievable experience. You can talk about social skills with people from all over the country there, but also working in Chicago, Cincinnati, Atlanta, traveling all over the country here. You deal with a lot of different people, and that's the fun thing about our tours as well, is our customer base. Last year we had somebody from 48 out of the 50 states, and we had people from 7 different countries around the world. So you get to meet a lot of different people and communicate with them, whether it be young, old, in between.
Well, that's one of your strengths, no question about it. And it was your strength when you played for me and when you were younger. You've always had great people skills. Speaking of that, when you select tour guides, that's certainly an important component.
Yeah, the ability to communicate, you know, teachers, coaches, people in the media, people that are used to talking in front of crowds. You know, we don't really call it work, but there is a little bit work behind it in that you need to communicate to them, and these people are relying on us and our escorts to give them a trip of a lifetime. And we provide them with all the materials as far as the education materials on the cities, the teams, where we're going, the historic sites, but then you still need to deliver it, and then things come up and about, and you got to handle certain things. But overall, our escorts do a wonderful job, and we get great reviews year after year.
Well, you started your tours in 2017 in Florida and in Arizona, and we missed you this year because our family always goes out to Arizona to watch spring training. Started even before Damian Miller. George Williams was out there, and we still go out there every single year, make that pilgrimage to the promised land, I guess.
Valley of the Sun.
Oh my gosh, yes. And so you started in Arizona, and now you're embarking. You were in New York, but now you really you launch into some trips over Memorial Day.
Yeah, we usually don't do anything in between spring training and Memorial Day due to the weather, obviously, there. But this year, Memorial Day, we're out in New York, and Jay will be hosting a full bus full. They're going to do the Yankees game, Red Sox game, and the Mets game. So it's a short little trip, but it's one that we like to do every year because it gives people a taste of what the trip's all about. They might not want to go on a full week. This is a short little weekend one. They can do that. And then once trip one's done, they start coming fast and furious. We've got probably about 6 of them in the month of June, July. We got the All-Star break. Then after between July to the end, we got 20 more trips going. So once the first domino falls, they start coming real quick.
So people that are watching the show for the first time learning about Jay Buckley Tours, and then shortly after this airs, it'll be on YouTube, so you'll have to expand into Europe and all over the place. But so people are thinking, okay, what do I expect? Lodging and logistics and meals and just the whole thing. Give us a little snapshot.
Yeah, we take care of everything. We try to make it the most stress-free trip you take. You basically just have to get to our destination cities. Locally here, La Crosse, we launch our Chicago trips from La Crosse, but then Chicago, New York, Atlanta, other places. But once you get there, we take care of all the ground transportation. We pick you up at the airport. We take care of the hotels, breakfast every morning, all the game tickets, and then anything extra. We do a lot of stadium tours. We do a lot of city tours. That's all included. I just tell people your biggest thing in the morning is to get up and get on the bus. Mr. Buckley doesn't like it when you're late to the bus. So other than that, you really maybe lunch and then dinner. Dinner's usually at the ballpark or around the ballpark, surrounding areas. We get to the ball games usually when the gates open, so a good hour and a half, 2 hours before the game. So if you want to walk around Wrigleyville or Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium, or if you want to go in for batting practice and try and get balls or autographs, you can do that as well. So,
and people, if they want, sometimes I've heard individuals ask, well, what about free time? I want to do some things on my own, too.
Yeah, we do have some built in because we'll do sightseeing in downtowns where we'll basically drop you off downtown Boston by like the Quincy Market area, and you got a couple hours to do whatever you want. You can visit the historic sites, you can go shopping, you can go to the local pubs, you could lay in the park and enjoy the sun. So there is free time situated throughout the trip in different cities, whether it be New York, Chicago, Boston, etc.
And how about a snapshot of the demographics as you look at those that are involved in this from when you started 7 years ago?
Yeah, we used to say anybody from 8 to 88 can go, and then we had a lady that was 91 that went on it. She was right in step with the rest of us, and she did everything fine. So we get wide ranges of people, and like I said, all over the country, different parts of the world. We have one guy from Norway that goes on 2 or 3 trips a year, but it's a family atmosphere. That's what we like to promote, in that we have a lot of, one of the neater trips is we get generation trips. We'll get a 3-generation trip where grandpa, dad, and son go on it. Or we'll have a grandmother and a daughter. And so we have families, we have individual peoples. It's a great thing because the one thing is the common love of baseball. They get on the bus, people are like, oh, the bus rides. And I said, that's part of the fun of it, because everybody on that bus has a common thread, and that's the love of the game of baseball. And then, but we do tell them there's 4 things we don't talk about on the bus: politics, religion, Pete Rose, and the designated hitter. Those are 4 items you're never going to win a conversation. So other than that, you can talk about anything on the bus.
I'd say when I look at your menu of destinations, you mentioned New York, Chicago. You go to New York several times, Atlanta, San Francisco, Miami, New Orleans, San Diego. You end in Arizona again, one of my favorite spots in the fall league. Yep. And then you're at the Hall of Fame induction with Bud Selig and with Rodriguez and Bagwell and Raines, and that'll be exciting.
Yep, we go to the Hall of Fame induction every year. We have 2 trips, one out of Chicago, one out of New York, and the Chicago one's completely sold out already, and the New York one's probably 3/4 full. And it's even if it's not your favorite player, it's still a goosebump memory when you're sitting there and you see all these greats come on the stage. And Cooperstown's such a small town. They have the Legends Parade that goes right down, Cooperstown, they don't even have a stoplight. They have one stop sign. That's how small the town is. But so you get to see all these legends or the heroes that we grew up, and you see them and you wave and they take the time, and then whoever's going into the game, the speeches still get to me. Where did they come from? Who do they thank? The obvious people they thank, but then all of a sudden you get a story about somebody, whether it be a equipment manager in single A ball that got me going in the right direction, or whoever it might be.
Those of you many of us, including me, I haven't been to stadiums all over the country. Someday, perhaps, but I guess I better hurry up. But you talk about the types of stadiums, indoor, outdoor, retro stadiums. I have been to Camden Yards, Chase Field. I like the retro look, Miller Park, and Target Field. Some of the uniqueness, Wrigley. Give us a little bit of an idea of some of the parks.
Well, Wrigley and Fenway are just iconic. Those are the two oldest ballparks, and they're unique because they were built way back when, and they still have those features. So, but Pnc Park in Pittsburgh is a wonderful setting, and that's probably in one of our top 5 when we do surveys with our customers. It overlooks the downtown and the rivers, and in the background it has Clemente Bridge that they shut down during the game, so you can walk over Roberto Clemente Bridge. That's part of the experience of going to a baseball game. That's what's unique about it. Wrigley, Fenway. Another one, San Francisco, AT&T Park out there is a wonderful setting, right on the bay there. Overlooks McCovey's Cove, and you got the boats out there trying to get home run balls. But Miller Park is a wonderful setting, with the dome, Target Field. They did a great job of a downtown ballpark. And a new one that we're excited about is Suntrust Park down in Atlanta. It's the newest ballpark that opened up in the northern suburbs of Atlanta.
One of the key things this year, too, is your Ultimate Day experience. Share that quickly, please.
Our Ultimate Game Day weekend is where we combine Major League Baseball with NFL games, and we've been doing it the last 5 years, and this year we're actually going to do 2 trips. We couldn't decide, so we thought we'd just roll both of them out. The first one is in September 15th down in Atlanta, going to the Braves' new stadium. And that's a Friday night. Saturday, we'll be going over to University of Georgia game in Athens. On Sunday, we actually got a doubleheader. We got the Braves game during the day, and then at night, we got this team from Green Bay called the Packers versus the Falcons in the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta. So they will be Sunday night opening up the new stadium with a rematch of the NFC Championship game. So that's September 15th through the 17th, and then at the end of the month, we've got the Bears at the Packers at Lambeau on the Thursday night game, September 28th, and then we're going down to Wrigley for a game at the Cubs on Friday. Saturday, we'll be up in Minneapolis for a game with the Twins, and then Sunday, we're at the new U.S. Bank Stadium, home of this year's Super Bowl with the Lions and the Vikings.
Wow. Talk about 2 exciting weekends.
Yeah.
So mark that down. And I'm excited about both of them. I'll have to check my personal calendar, check with the boss at home, and see what the schedule
I talked to
is.
somebody and they go, oh. And I was like, oh, you don't like them? No, I like them both. I don't know which to go on.
Yeah, there
I
you
said,
go.
"Oh."
So how do they find out more information about Jay Buckley Tours?
JayBuckley.com. You spell it out, JayBuckley, JayBuckley.com, or call us up anytime. We love phone calls, toll-free, 888-666-3510.
Yeah, you couldn't find 2 better guys to get involved with, Matt Thornton, Jay Buckley, and it's an experience of a lifetime. So, well, we'll have you back on next year, the 6th time. We'll break a record again, talking about what's going on with Jay Buckley Tour. So,
Absolutely.
Matt Thornton, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be back with some closing thoughts right after this.
After 80 years in our beautiful area, it's easy to find a home that's kept comfortable by Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning. To say thank you, we're celebrating our 80th anniversary in style.
When you install a new Carrier residential air conditioner now until June 27th from our La Crosse or Winona locations, get 50% of your purchase back if there's a new record high temp on July 4th. Call now for complete details.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning.
Well, our cameras were busy on Tuesday night covering 2 sectional baseball games here on KQEG. First, to Damian Miller Field to watch the West Salem Panthers as they look to advance to state. After beating Adams Friendship 7-6 in the semifinal game, the Panthers would face Prescott in the championship game. Both teams scored 2 runs in the first inning, and then defense took over. Pitchers Hunter Wakefield and Alex Juronic contributed to the win as they kept Prescott in check, allowing only 4 hits. West Salem scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 6th to put the game away. Nick Schultz, Zach Ely, Jake Whitbeck, Alex Gorski, and Austin Kennedy contributed with key hits in the Panther win. The West Salem Panthers advanced for the 3rd year in a row to Little Chute, facing second-ranked Beloit Turner in WIAA State Division II semifinal game on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Art and I, along with Jesse on camera, were at beautiful Pnc Park in Whitehall as Aquinas would look to advance to Division III state level play. After beating Lancaster 11-4 in the semis, the opponent in the championship game, the Wisconsin Heights Vanguards from the Capital Conference. Head coach Scott Bagneski turned to freshman pitcher Jess Ondell, and he answered the call, pitching all 7 innings, allowing just 4 hits and striking out 3. A spectacular blue gold defense gave Ondell all the support that he needed. Brandon Murfelt continued his outstanding hitting with 2 hits and 2 RBIs, while Ondell was 2 for 3 and 2 RBIs. Aquinas returns to state tournament for the 6th time under Scott Bagneski, playing Cumberland in the state semis at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. Well, that's your show this week here on 7 Rivers Sports. I'm your host, Terry Erickson, hoping you will have an active and a healthy week.